Recently, Portal 2 was dethroned on the Steam store as the highest rated game of all time, losing its spot to Stardew Valley. And while Stardew Valley is an amazing game, I don't think we should forget what makes Portal special enough to have had that spot for over a decade. About how on the surface it's an extremely fun and kid-friendly game, but while underneath the surface, there are real mature themes delving into isolation, trauma, and self-identity. To show you why this is the case, we need to go all the way back to 2007, to the original Portal, to understand the foundation of one of the most emotionally powerful stories in video game history. The first Portal game on its own is an amazing standalone game. It's not overcomplicated, it's very user-friendly, it's very self-contained in which you don't need to know any background information about it to get into it. And you barely even need to know anything about gaming to get into it. And it's pretty short, only taking around a couple hours, maybe a little bit more to finish. I also love that it treats the player as an equal, meaning the game shows you how to progress without shoving it in your face with tutorial prompts or sudden exposition. The entire time you play Portal, you feel completely immersed within it. But what you are also immersed in is this deep psychological feeling of loneliness. Portal doesn't begin with any big cinematic opening. Instead, you simply awaken in a cold, sterile test chamber, with a clinical robotic voice to greet you.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center.
The incredibly sanitary and strikingly monotone environment doesn't feel comforting. And this feeling is only ever expanded upon as the more you progress through the test chambers, the more questions arise. Where is everyone else? Why are there no people in the observation rooms? Who is this female robotic voice that narrates every chamber with increasingly sarcastic and even homicidal remarks? And most importantly, why am I here? Eventually you progress to the last test chamber, and you're hit with the sudden twist that the facility, whoever's in charge of it, is trying to kill you, leading you to barely escape a fiery death as you then delve into the bowels of the facility, in desperate search of an escape. And if you didn't feel put off when you were inside the test chambers, you cannot help but feel uncomfortable at this portion of the game.
You're not a good person. You know that, right? Good people don't end up here. Can you hear me?
There is this overwhelming feeling that you definitely don't belong here, as GLaDOS says. That you shouldn't be here amongst all the behind-the-scenes machinery, traversing the sewers and actually peeking into the offices to find, once again, that there's no one there. Office chairs lie empty. Monitors hum as code scrolls on by, and presentations in meeting rooms continue to churn on by as if they were just looked at, showing clear evidence of human life, just not anymore. It evokes an almost primal sense of fear that you know something is wrong. That creeping feeling at the back of your neck that you know something bad has happened, or is going to happen. That gut feeling that you're being watched. That human instinct that radiates amongst your nervous system that shouts for you to leave, shouts for you to run, that you're not safe, continues to shout louder and louder until your feeling is proved right. When you reach the final climax of the game, you discover that the robotic voice narrating the test chambers was in fact this giant machine called GLaDOS, a homicidal supercomputer designed to oversee Aperture Science. And after you incinerate the first spherical core that drops off her body, she loses what little facade she has left, and taking on a more homicidal tone, reveals what actually happened to all the people within the facility. She did.
Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did. It was a morality core they installed after I flooded the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin to make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin. So get comfortable while I warm up the neurotoxin emitters.
The scientists activated her, and perhaps due to her programming or perhaps due to a little something more that will be revealed in the sequel, she flooded the facility with a neurotoxin. A poisonous gas that, as the name suggests, is incredibly lethal to humans. And with everyone gone, her insane AI decided to continue with its original programming. To test. To pursue the cause of science in whatever way possible, and at the most risk to human life as possible. Because to GLaDOS, humans are just expendable tools to achieve scientific discovery. But you're not a tool, you're a human. An incredibly tenacious and stubborn human with a knack to survive the most extreme of circumstances, which is something GLaDOS doesn't anticipate. So you fight to survive, even as GLaDOS floods the chamber with neurotoxin and shoots at you with a rocket turret. You turn the situation to your advantage. You reflect on what you learned in the test chambers. You think with portals, you turn her own weapon against her. Shooting more cores off her body, incinerating the cores one by one until she explodes in great dramatic fashion, exploding into the ceiling and dragging you up with her and out of the facility. I'll admit the physics of this escape are a bit unclear, but what matters is, you did it. You win, you're out. Just not for long.
Thank you for assuming the party escort submission position.
The game series shifts tone a bit when we arrive at Portal 2, and while over the game we get more information of world building, we don't move away from that feeling of isolation. Somehow, ever so slowly, we still move deeper into it, just more subtly. If you look close enough behind the walls of Aperture Science, there are clear themes of memory and decay, trauma and fear, and an almost uniquely tragic type of comedy that dances on the edge of absurdity.
Well, you know the old formula. Comedy equals tragedy plus time.
And hidden behind all of that, a rich, deep philosophical lesson on persevering and sustaining your humanity in a world that tries as hard as it can to destroy you. Behind the scenes of test solving, Portal is in fact a deeply emotional story that dives into the personalities, backgrounds, and motivations of its three main characters: Wheatley, GLaDOS, and the player, Chell. More specifically in how they are trapped, not just by the facility they inhabit, but how their past insecurities and traumatic events shape their present identities, and explains the actions we see them commit. Immediately when we step into Portal 2, the very world is littered with memory. Memory of the past, of the first game. We go through the same locations, the same test chambers. Aperture Science has not just changed as it aged, it's been forgotten, abandoned, left to rot. A metallic tomb once adorned with pristine white walls and the hum of advanced technology has now all crumbled away, allowing vines and plants to overtake the test chambers. We see that water floods the facility and sunlight streams in through holes in the ceiling. We are also presented with a new character at the start of Portal 2. Our favourite blue-eyed personality core, Stephen Merchant. Wheatley. Wheatley is one of many personality cores we see in the series. We actually see many of them at the end of Portal 1 that we shoot off GLaDOS and incinerate. In fact, we also see at the end of that game that there are countless more of them left in storage. And it is actually revealed as we progress through Portal 2 that every single type of self-aware AI in Aperture Science is a type of personality core, meaning every single turret we see, Peabody and Atlas in co-op mode, and GLaDOS herself are all personality cores designed for a specific purpose. GLaDOS was of course designed to be Aperture Science's overseer, while personality spheres such as Wheatley were originally developed to counteract GLaDOS's psychotic personality, to varying degrees of success. To what reason Aperture Science stockpiled them and created countless variants of personality spheres? We don't exactly know. The most likely reason being that Aperture scientists were desperately trying to create core after core to try to control GLaDOS and limit her homicidal personality. And if not that, it isn't hard to believe that they created more cores just for the sake of it, as Aperture scientists seem to have a tendency for experimenting on the extreme edge of science without any valid justification or safeguards.
Science isn't about why, it's about why not.
All of this culminating in that after Chell destroys GLaDOS in the first game, the facility reactivates whatever cores remain in order to try and keep the facility up and running. It is implied that many didn't succeed or didn't survive due to one reason or another, but what is stated by our pal Wheatley is that he was put in charge of maintaining the extended relaxation center, which is where you first wake up. Judging by the state of the other test subjects, he didn't seem to do a very good job. But that could just be due to the facility decaying beyond his control, as Wheatley states that
the reserve power ran out, so of course the whole relaxation centre stops waking up the bloody test subjects.
either way, this leads Wheatley to find the last surviving test subject. You. Wheatley knows that with the power out, both of you will surely die if you don't help each other escape. And so, Portal 2 commences. Wheatley is introduced to the player as the comic relief companion, a charming, bumbling guide who provides both exposition and a sense of direction during the early stages of the game. His personality breathes life and humour into the otherwise bleak and isolating test chambers. But he is, at his core, no pun intended, very anxious, clumsy, and very incompetent. In unused voice lines, Wheatley reveals more about his past, including a moment where he says he accidentally pressed the neurotoxin release button. While it's unlikely this was the actual incident that killed the scientists, it reinforces his anxious, clumsy nature and the scale of his incompetence.
Over there is where they used to keep the old neurotoxin release button. Big responsibility, the guy in charge of the neurotoxin release button. And guess who he was? It wasn't me, but I was his assistant, and I did a lot of his admin. You know, in the end, yes, they let me go. It's all politics, to be honest. It's a big popularity contest. It's all about who you know and whose back you're willing to scratch and who doesn't touch, you know, or in my case, who did accidentally touch the neurotoxin button. But, you know, not entirely my fault. You should have seen the size of it. It was huge. I mean, I should have got a raise for all the times that I didn't accidentally bump into it.
And we soon discover why he is like this. After Wheatley accidentally wakes up GLaDOS, eventually frees us from the test chambers, and after we help Wheatley take over the facility, he becomes almost immediately corrupted by the power, and GLaDOS, now a potato battery, reveals the real purpose that Wheatley was designed for.
Sorry, what?
The engineers tried everything to make me behave, to slow me down. Once, they even attached an intelligence dampening sphere on me. It clung to my brain like a tumor, generating an endless stream of terrible ideas.
No, not listening, not listening.
It was your voice.
No, you're lying, you're lying.
You're the tumor. You're not just a regular moron. You're designed to be a moron.
I am not a moron!
Yes, you are. You're the moron they built to make me an idiot.
Well, how about now? Now who's a moron? Could a moron punch you into this pit? Ah! Could a moron do that? No.
It would be putting it lightly to say that Wheatley is deeply insecure about the purpose of his existence. And can you blame him? Many of us spend our entire lives searching for meaning, for purpose. And imagine you discover yours was to be dumb. To be a moron. It would probably break you to some degree. And it breaks Wheatley. It also leads us to wonder why GLaDOS remembers Wheatley's purpose but Wheatley himself doesn't? Perhaps simply meaning that the scientist wiped Wheatley's memories after they repurposed him for some other job. Or hinting at the possibility that Wheatley himself has deep repressed memories, desperately trying to distance himself from his past. Wheatley's every move once he takes power becomes one driven to prove that he is more than his design, more than who he was made to be. Before that, when you're traveling with Wheatley throughout the facility, he slowly reveals stories about his past, and more importantly, about all the things the scientist told him not to do.
They told me never, never, ever to disengage myself from my management rail, or I would die. Oh, for God's sake, they told me that if I ever turn this flashlight on, I would die. They should take us right to her. I can't believe I'm finally doing this. Woo! I knew this would be fun. They told me it wasn't fun at all, so they said it's not fun at all. And I believed them. I was a fraud to myself. Oh, but I'm loving this. Whale avatar.
His entire life is one of restriction and imprisonment, gaslit into believing that he will die if he tries to do anything beyond his original intended purpose. It leads me further to believe that the Aperture scientists were immensely cruel. Because think about it. Why would you design a robot with a specific purpose, make it self-conscious, and continuously grant it the ability to yearn for freedom and life experience when you know you will never grant it that? It's cruel psychopathic torture for no valid reason, a common theme we will begin to see in Aperture Science. But all of this combined leads me to believe that Wheatley is one of the most human characters in the game. It's easy on the surface to say that Wheatley is evil as he instantly became corrupt with power, but that would be a gross misrepresentation of his character. In truth, Wheatley has never been allowed to feel capable, to be given freedom, to be given more than what he was predeterminedly built to do. For the first time in his life, he is in control. And very sadly, this causes him to give in to his insecurities. He lashes out, he gets mad, and decides to take revenge on the world that wronged him. Wheatley's story is not just one of corruption, it's one of tragedy. His tragic motivation drives him to become a person of significance, someone worthy of basic standards and respect. Sadly, it also leads him to repeat the very cruelties that he once suffered, primarily belittlement.
Fatty, adopted fatty, no parents.
It also leads him, when he is in charge of the facility, to become addicted to the euphoric feeling GLaDOS's body gives him when tests are completed. A hardwired drug into his mind. And it's easy to criticize him for getting addicted to it and getting mad at the withdrawals when GLaDOS states that she easily got over it. But what we need to keep in mind is that for Wheatley, this euphoric solution was probably the first thing he has ever experienced which actually makes him feel good or gives him happiness. Or at least, the illusion of happiness. Which is all drugs are, and is something which Wheatley is too lost to realize. He is so broken, so depressed, that Wheatley immediately prioritizes the first thing that gives him joy, the first thing that makes him feel better in his entire life. And he resents you when, from his perspective, you take it away from him.
All I wanted to do was make everything better for me. All you had to do was to solve a couple of hundred simple tests for a few years, and you couldn't even let me have that, could you?
A lot of Wheatley's thoughts and delusions come out in the final confrontation, as he rants on.
And another thing, you never caught me. I told you I could die falling off that rail, you didn't catch me. Didn't even try. Oh, it's all becoming clear to me now. Find some dupe to break you out of cryo sleep. Give him some sob story about escaping to the surface. Squeeze him for information on where to find a portal gun. Then, when he's no more use to you, he has a little accident, doesn't he? Falls off his management rail, doesn't he? You're in this together, aren't you? You've been playing me the whole time, both of you. First you make me think you're brain damaged. Then you convince me you're sworn enemies with your best friend over here. Then, when I reluctantly assume the responsibility of running the place, you conveniently decide to run off together, just when I need you the most. I'll bet there isn't even a problem with the facility, is there? I'll bet there's no such thing as a reactor core. I'll bet that's not even fire coming out of the walls, is it? It's just cleverly placed lights and papier-mâché. I bet that's all it is.
Wheatley's paranoia in this final confrontation aren't the ramblings of someone who is insane or malfunctioning. They are the desperate cries of someone who has never been trusted or valued in his entire life. From his perspective, his entire life has been one of betrayal. The very Aperture scientists who gave him life betrayed him by making him dumb and limiting his freedom. GLaDOS, the only real authority figure left in the facility, constantly tries to kill him and mocks him the entire game. And you, Chell, you left him behind. And while we know it wasn't on purpose, he knocked us down into a hole, in his mind, it only validates every insecurity he's ever had. Wheatley is just a victim of his environment. He didn't set off at the start of the game with evil designs and hidden machinations of how he was going to take over the facility. He never wanted to become a villain. He just wanted to matter. To be something more than what he was built to be. And that's why I say he is one of the most human characters in the game. His struggle is deeply human. Wheatley's story isn't just a cautionary tale of being corrupted and turned evil by power. That's certainly a part of it, but it's also the story of a person with flaws, desperately trying to escape the role they were forced into, and tragically failing in the process. It's only in the final scene of the game, after the end credits, do we see Wheatley reminiscing on what he did in hindsight, and apologizing.
I wish I could take it all back. I honestly do. I honestly do wish I could take it all back. And not just because I'm stranded in space.
It isn't a full redemption, no apology can undo the damage Wheatley caused, but it's something. It's a glimpse into the Wheatley that could have been, if anyone had ever only treated him with dignity. In that final scene, he is self-aware, remorseful, and, perhaps for the first time, genuinely mature, admitting his faults and mistakes, and content to live with the consequences.
You know, if I was ever to see her again, do you know what I'd say?
I'm in space.
I'd say, I'm sorry. Sincerely. I am sorry I was bossy and monstrous. And I am genuinely sorry.
I'm in space.
The end.
To truly understand GLaDOS and others in the Portal series, we need to examine not just the games, but also the Lab Rat comic. It fills critical gaps between Portal and Portal 2, revealing pivotal backstory for GLaDOS and Chell, because what we begin to understand from all of this is that GLaDOS is one of, if not the most, emotionally complex character in Portal, which is originally hard to believe due to her being a completely psychopathic, super intelligent AI. Not only cruel to the other robots in the facility, but harboring a specific hatred for humans. She's the main antagonist of the first game, as well as the main antagonist for roughly half of the second. But Portal 2 completely flips our understanding of GLaDOS on its head, as when Wheatley takes over the facility, he traps GLaDOS in a potato battery, and in a fit of rage shoves us down into the bowels of the old forgotten sections of Aperture Science, where we begin to uncover the secrets of her past. When GLaDOS, now Potatoes, gets taken away by a bird and we are exploring the bowels of Aperture Science, we are introduced to the character of
Cave Johnson. I own the place.
or at least he used to. We discover that Cave Johnson first made his fortune selling shower curtains in the early 1940s, under the company Aperture Fixtures, making Johnson rich after winning a contract to supply shower curtains to the US military. Then, in the mid to late 1940s, Cave would change the name of his company to Aperture Science Innovators, and slowly transition his company to work on actual science, buying a salt mine in Upper Michigan to conduct these experiments, which is where we learn Aperture Science is located, and where the game takes place. It is clear from these pre-recorded messages left behind by Cave Johnson that he was incredibly eccentric, doing science for the sake of progress and discovery, while ignoring all ethical or safety concerns. This is evidenced by the insane experiments we uncover which describe replacing a subject's blood with gasoline or peanut water, unintentionally turning human waste into coal, exposing test subjects to jet engines in order to lower the amount of water in the human body, and injecting test subjects with praying mantis DNA, turning them into mantis men, and then recruiting other test subjects to put them down. We even discover a recorded message about early portal tests in which Cave states,
This doesn't work with all skin types, so try to remember which skin is yours, and if it doesn't teleport along with you, we'll do what we can to sew you right back into it.
Cave also literally states in another recording that they're just
Throwing science at the wall here to see what sticks.
which is a pretty apt description of how Cave ran Aperture Science, and why the facility in the future continues that crazy policy of conducting extremely life-threatening science experiments long after he is gone. It's not all completely for nothing, however, as among the insanity, Aperture managed to create a handful of real scientific discoveries, such as the repulsion and propulsion gel, and most famously, the portal gun. As you explore the bowels of Aperture Science, you are taken through the decades in which Cave ran the company. First during the 1950s, in which Cave was young, full of life and rich with money, hiring astronauts, athletes, and war heroes for test subjects, aiming to recruit the people at the height of their physical and intellectual skill to undergo the most extreme of tests. By the 1970s, Aperture had run out of their preferable pool of test subjects, perhaps due to the growing rumours around what happens to test subjects in Aperture Science. As Cave Johnson states, he was a
Vital participant in the 1968 Senate hearings on missing astronauts.
This new public perception of his company forces him to recruit a lower standard of test subject, luring them in with the promise of $60, which, calculating from 1970 to 2025, would have the purchasing power of around almost $500 today due to inflation. Cave also states that he offered test subjects an additional $60 if they let Aperture scientists completely disassemble their body and put them back together.
If you're interested in an additional $60, flag down a test associate and let them know. You could walk out of here with 120 weighing down your bindle if you let us take you apart, put some science stuff in you, then put you back together, good as new.
Clearly showing that Aperture Science is becoming a bit more desperate for test subjects. By the 1980s, Cave had become so desperate for test subjects that he was recruiting homeless people off the street, and forcefully requiring his own employees to participate in his tests. However, karma would finally come back to bite Cave during this time, as he states grinding together moon rocks he purchased in order to create conversion gel made Johnson deathly ill, causing his already existing questionable mental state to deteriorate dramatically.
All right, I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
Take the lemons.
Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
Oh, I like this guy.
I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.
His house down. Burning people. He says what we're all thinking.
And so, with no cure in sight, Cave instructed his scientists to begin research on artificial intelligence and brain mapping.
The point is, if we can store music on a compact disc, why can't we store a man's intelligence and personality on one? So I have the engineers figuring that out now. Brain mapping. Artificial intelligence. We should have been working on it 30 years ago.
In the hopes that Cave's consciousness could be downloaded onto a computer before his death. However, perhaps Cave knew he might not survive this long, as he left specific instructions stating,
If I die before you people can pour me into a computer, I want Carolyn to run this place.
Carolyn was Cave Johnson's personal assistant. Little is known about her past, with this portrait being the only image we have of her, but from the little dialogue she has in the pre-recorded messages alongside Cave, we can infer that they were close. Never explicitly stating that they had a romantic relationship, but that Cave held her in high esteem, stating that,
She's the backbone of this facility.
and evidently Cave trusted her enough to entrust the overseeing of the entire facility to her after his death, even ordering his scientists to put her mind in his computer if Cave didn't survive long enough, which is exactly what they do, leading to the shock revelation, drumroll please, that Caroline is GLaDOS. Who could have known? That's sarcasm, by the way. One of the main giveaways for her origins is actually straight in her name. GLaDOS means Genetic Lifeform and Disk Operating System. Genetic lifeform, meaning she is an artificial intelligence combined with a genetic origin, a human origin. This is also eventually confirmed by GLaDOS herself, as when you rescue her from the clutches of her killer bird, you stab Potato GLaDOS on your portal gun and complete the rest of the game with her. And as you traverse these old test chambers, GLaDOS continuously recognizes Cave Johnson's voice, and panics so much when hearing Caroline's voice that she short-circuits.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. Why did I just... Who is that? What the hell is going on here?
However, when looking closely at the circumstances of Caroline's transition into GLaDOS, we discover a more traumatic process.
If I die before you people can pour me into a computer, I want Carolyn to run this place. Now she'll argue. She'll say she can't. She's modest like that, but you make her.
It is heavily implied in Portal that Caroline was in some way forced to become GLaDOS. This isn't just supported by Cave Johnson's comments about making her do it, but also unused voice lines of Caroline stating,
Mr. Johnson, I don't want this.
Now, while strictly speaking unused voice lines aren't canon, there's not a lot of other context one can imagine this line would have been used in. Also, it shows in the Lab Rat comic that every single time the scientists tried to activate GLaDOS, it would be literal picoseconds before she would try to kill them, and that they in turn worked desperately into creating personality cores to try, as one scientist says, give her a conscience. But this is also revealed by the comic's protagonist, Doug Ratman, why this ultimately fails. As Ratman states, you can always ignore your conscience. We begin to see how it fills in a lot of gaps in GLaDOS's behaviour, about why she is so homicidal. It's a personal hatred, a vendetta, something the scientists didn't anticipate, that when your human self becomes forgotten as you transition from human into AI, the resistance to the process and the hatred of the people who did it to you carry over, which makes sense as to why the moment GLaDOS was activated, she flooded the facility with neurotoxin and killing everyone. It's anger and pain rooted in the trauma of what happened to her, of being dehumanized and shaped into something you never wanted to be, leading to self-loathing, leading to a form of repression, whether purposeful or not, and leading to her forgetting her human memories, her past. When GLaDOS has the revelation that she is Caroline, she undergoes a very significant character arc. She still has her homicidal wit, her snarky comments, but she is significantly kinder and more honest to the player, sympathetic to them even. And when leading up to the final climax of the game, she even explains that she won't betray you due to her new voice in her head, a conscience.
You know, I'm not stupid. I realize you don't want to put me back in charge. You think I'll betray you, and on any other day you'd be right. The scientists were always hanging cores on me to regulate my behavior. I've heard voices all my life, but now I hear the voice of a conscience, and it's terrifying. Because for the first time, it's my voice. I'm being serious. I think there's something really wrong with me.
The scientists tried so hard to give her a conscience through personality cores, when her true conscience was locked away, deep inside the mind of Caroline all along. And during the final climax when you shoot a portal onto the moon, GLaDOS has the perfect opportunity to finally be rid of you and Wheatley, killing two birds with one stone, yet she doesn't. She keeps her word and goes out of her way to save you, even showing very human relief as you wake up.
Oh, thank God, you're all right. You know, being Carolyn taught me a valuable lesson. I thought you were my greatest enemy, when all along you were my best friend.
I don't think best friend is meant to be taken too literally in this context. I think it is a way for GLaDOS to thank Chell for not only helping her uncover her past and true self as Carolyn, but being able to confront it and help her get back into her body and in control of the facility once again. In a weird way, because Chell and GLaDOS spend the entire first game as adversaries, as the only two people in the facility together, Chell is the only constant in GLaDOS's life, and vice versa. They went from enemies to unlikely allies, and even unlikely friends, helping GLaDOS ultimately learn to confront her inner demons and grow from it all, whether unintentionally or not. In a brutal facility designed and founded by a psychotic man, inherited by a homicidal AI, Chell still managed to bring out the humanity in GLaDOS, rekindling hope in the machine. Yet, the progress, as quickly as it's gained, seems to disappear.
The surge of emotion that shot through me when I saved your life taught me an even more valuable lesson, where Carolyn lives in my brain.
Carolyn, delete.
Goodbye, Carolyn.
Perhaps the emotional confusion was too much for her to bear. Perhaps it made her too conflicted to continue her job as the cold robotic administrator that she was programmed to be. And yet, while there is visible change in her behavior, her voice, and even the lighting of the scene when Caroline is deleted, I don't think she can just as easily forget what happened. Because she doesn't forget. Not really. GLaDOS is a genetic lifeform and disk operating system. Deleting Carolyn from her system would just make her DOS. And she clearly isn't, not only because she still has her personality, but because she immediately recognizes she deleted Carolyn from her brain in the following sentence. Meaning she remembers what she went through with you, and the memories of her past that she uncovered. So why does she delete Carolyn? Perhaps it's more of a metaphorical way of moving on. By holding on to Carolyn, GLaDOS holds on to her pain, her memories of her past trauma, her hatred of humans, and homicidal desires. So choosing to delete Carolyn is not truly erasing of all the self-discovery she made. It's making a conscious effort to press forward, to move on, to find release and let go of her past, accepting herself for who she is, and finding a strange peace in her new existence. And part of leaving Carolyn behind is by also letting you go too.
You know, deleting Carolyn just now taught me a valuable lesson. The best solution to a problem is usually the easiest one.
GLaDOS might never admit she has changed, but by letting you go, it is evident. It is not an easy decision, as she states, but a better term would be a natural one, following the transformations she has undergone. Not an act of mercy, but one of choice. A choice to reclaim her identity and control over herself, as no longer a living homicidal legacy to Cave Johnson's insanity, perpetuating the pain she went through onto others. No. Instead, she is making the conscious decision to end the cycle of pain and torment for both of you. She still has her sharp wit, her cruel humor, but beneath that cold exterior and layers of code, there lies a flicker of humanity that cannot be undone.
And I'll be honest, killing you is hard. You know what my days used to be like? I just tested. Nobody murdered me, or put me in a potato, or fed me to birds. I had a pretty good life. And then you showed up, you dangerous, mute lunatic. So you know what? You win. Just go. It's been fun. Don't come back.
Chell is, on the surface, a very hard character to analyze. She is the protagonist of the whole series, and yet she never utters a single word. In the first game, she manages to groan when she is hurt, but in Portal 2, we don't even get that. Where Wheatley is all nervousness and noise, GLaDOS is mocking sarcasm to hide her trauma,
I was able, well, forced really, to relive you killing me again and again, forever. You know, if you'd done that to somebody else, they might devote their existence to exacting revenge.
Chell is silent, and part of this can just be explained as a purposeful decision by the devs. A silent protagonist allows the player to paint their own personality onto a blank canvas, without the additions of voice lines and dialogue that would take away from what your perception of Chell is. By being completely mute, it allows the player to become completely immersed in the world of Portal. Instead of believing you're playing someone else's character, you believe you're exploring the world yourself. Yet we actually have a fair bit of evidence providing in-game explanations of her background, and a little of her motivations. We learn in Lab Rat that Chell was never meant to be the test subject chosen for the first game. Her file states that she was so stubborn, so tenacious, that she would not be a good subject for testing. But she then becomes placed at the top of the queue by Doug Ratman, the only scientist to survive GLaDOS's flooding of the facility with neurotoxin. And he chooses her precisely because of her tenacity. Ratman states his idea was a hunch, just a theory that an unwillingness to give up, an ability to keep moving forward no matter the obstacles, might be enough to stop GLaDOS. That trait, not genius, not strength, but unrelenting willpower, is what sets Chell apart in a cold facility built to break you. And so began her journey, trapped in a sterile cage, prodded through deadly puzzles, taunted by a cruel and all-seeing intelligence. She has no machine gun but a portal gun, no companion but the weighted companion cube, which is destroyed the moment she starts to care about it. In a world that constantly erases meaning, Chell clings to action. She doesn't rebel with words or ideology or grand speeches. She rebels by surviving. The subsequent trauma Chell endures isn't loud. It's quiet and cumulative. Every escape she makes is into another trap. Every fleeting sign of freedom is snatched away. Even when she destroys GLaDOS at the end of the first game, her freedom is denied as she is dragged back into the facility. The reason why this happened is given greater explanation in the Lab Rat comic. We discovered that she was dragged back into the facility by the party escort bot, something GLaDOS hints at when you first escape your fiery death.
A party associate will arrive shortly to collect you for your party.
And that the bot places an unconscious Chell in the relaxation vault. In the comic, Ratman feels conflicted that while finally being given the opportunity to escape due to Chell, he was the actual reason for her being tested upon. It was his fault that GLaDOS tried to kill her. If he had never moved her up the list, she would have remained in cryosleep along with all the other test subjects. But neither of them would have escaped. So, Ratman decides, as he owes his freedom to her, that he needs to go back to save her after she was dragged away. But Ratman is shocked to discover that after GLaDOS's explosion, the main power grid went offline, meaning all the cryo chambers in the relaxation vault went offline, meaning Chell was surely doomed to die. So, in a last desperate act, while bleeding out from turret shots, Ratman patched Chell's cryo unit into the reserve power grid, making sure she stayed alive while no one else did. This perfectly explains the state of the relaxation center when you wake up in Portal 2, and why you're the only one left alive. Not due to Wheatley's incompetence at all, but actually an unintentional side effect of you destroying GLaDOS in the first game. Ratman, however, is remorseful, as he is unable to set up a wake-up date for Chell, meaning she will be asleep indefinitely, unless someone else wakes her up one day. He relates this to Schrodinger's cat, both alive and dead, until someone opens the box. It is only when the reserve power runs out, prompting Wheatley to wake you up in Portal 2, that Chell is finally saved from this endless sleep. What makes Chell so compelling is that she endures not just despite the isolation and cruelty, but because of it. Every moment where she's stripped of control, every betrayal or manipulation from GLaDOS's constant psychological warfare to Wheatley's paranoid delusions, only seems to reinforce her drive. She is betrayed again and again, used by Wheatley, dehumanized by GLaDOS, and abandoned by a world that forgot her. And yet, she never stops moving forward. That movement is her answer. That movement is her character. In the final moments of Portal 2, after surviving 2 homicidal AIs, countless near-death puzzles, and a journey to the forgotten foundations of Aperture, Chell is finally granted freedom. GLaDOS, in a rare act of humanity, lets her go. And Chell is granted one of the most heartwarming scenes in gaming, in my opinion. The hundreds of turrets singing Cara mi adio, although I'm probably butchering that. Its English translation for my fellow non-bilinguals means goodbye my dear, and the song reflects that. It is a beautiful piece of opera that is bittersweet in its melancholy, a farewell that feels both earned and mournful. It's the striking irony of the turrets that spent the entire game shooting at you now singing a heartfelt goodbye, but also evoking deep sadness and beauty from the deep tear-jerking lyrics of the song's meaning, meant to be sung from GLaDOS to Chell. Oh my dear farewell. My dear baby, why don't you walk far away? Yes, far away from science. It's GLaDOS's first and final act of love, an act of humanity and kindness, to the person who helped regain her humanity. The lyrics make it sound as if it's a mother letting go of her child, of GLaDOS letting go of Chell, she who means so much and has done so much for her, yet she knows to hang on to her will only harm them, and instead urges her to move on, to walk far away from science. Also, really quickly, I wanted to mention that I keep seeing tons of fan theories online stating that Chell is the illegitimate daughter of Cave Johnson and Carolyn, and somehow thinking this is canon because of the maternal themes in that song. But I just wanted to quickly add in that there is no evidence for this. I mean, come on. Have we lost all subtlety and nuance here? Just because the song makes reference to my child or my baby doesn't literally mean GLaDOS is calling Chell her baby. It's a term of endearment which I think is more impactful, honestly. Yes, we saw Chell's name in the potato experiment earlier in the game, but that doesn't automatically mean it was Carolyn who brought Chell to the Bring Your Daughter to Work day. It could have been any single other employee. Look, you can believe what you want, but there is no confirmed evidence for this theory, and in my opinion, it makes Chell's and GLaDOS' relationship more impactful because it doesn't rely on blood ties to be meaningful. Their bond is powerful and emotional because it was forged through conflict, survival, and eventual learned empathy for each other. Not because of some weird cop-out secret parentage twist that just feels lazy. The emotional arc of GLaDOS letting Chell go is incredibly more powerful exactly because GLaDOS isn't Chell's mother, but still ends up showing her mercy because she has learned to care for her, despite all her past homicidal tendencies. In my opinion, it just takes away from the independence and autonomy of the characters if you say they're related. Like, that's the only way they can matter. But to reiterate what I've said before, the beauty of the story is about self-identity, it's about self-acceptance and breaking traumatic cycles of pain and torment, not just some retroactive bloodline to justify their connection. But enough of my rant, let's wrap this up. Chell's story is not about triumph over evil. It's not about vengeance either. It's about human perseverance. Aperture Science doesn't just test your knowledge or your puzzle-solving skills. Its true test is mental fortitude. Aperture Science berates you, mocks you, isolates you, dehumanizes you, breaks you down and tries to kill you. As if daring you to keep trying, daring you to be brave, to be kind, to keep your humanity whilst trapped in a cold, lifeless place that has both metaphorically and literally lost it. That is the true test of Aperture Science. Testing your humanity and whether you're strong enough to keep it. Strong enough to be a better person, to leave the past behind, to stay alive, and to move on at the end of the line. On a personal note, I wanted to make this video as a kind of love letter to the whole Portal series. I'm not exactly sure what the first game I ever played was, but it was probably a toss-up between Minecraft or Portal. I have this very awkward memory of singing along to the Still Alive outro song as I finished Portal for the first time, and my mum, a very creative and musical person, was completely elated when she caught me doing it. although I was very embarrassed. Together she sat by me and recorded me singing it for whatever reason, and it has kind of become a really heartwarming memory between us. And so, as a tribute to younger me, to the game series I love, to my mum, my dad, and a tribute to keep going on even while the whole world tries to break you down, thought I might give it another go. This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive. I'm not even angry. I'm being so sincere right now. Even though you broke my heart and killed me and tore me to pieces and threw every piece into a fire. As they burned, it hurt because I was so happy for you. Now these points of data make a beautiful line, and we're out of beta, we're releasing on time. So I'm glad I got burned. Think of all the things we learned, all the people who are still alive. Go ahead and leave me. I think I prefer to stay inside. Maybe you'll find someone else to help you. Maybe Black Mesa. That was a joke, haha, bad chance. Anyway, this cake is great, it's so delicious and moist. Look at me still talking when there's science to do. When I look out there, it makes me glad I'm not you. I've experiments to run, there is research to be done on the people who are still alive. And believe me, I am still alive. I'm doing science and I'm still alive. I feel fantastic and I'm still alive. While you're dying, I'll be still alive. And when you're dead, I will be still alive. Still alive.